Want the job after your internship? Here's how people actually get hired. Do you ever feel nervous about stepping into the professional world? Like you're about to walk into a room where everyone seems to already know what they're doing, and you're still trying to figure out where the coffee machine is? If you've ever landed an internship, congrats. That's a big step. But I get it. The real question running through your head might not be, how do I do this internship well? It's, how do I make this turn into something more? How do I turn this into a full-time job? Because let's be honest, internships are often treated like a test drive. Not just for the company to evaluate you, but for you to show them you're worth investing in. And in a world where entry-level jobs want 2 years of experience, internships are one of the few ways left to sneak your foot in the door before it slams shut. So if you're watching this right now, chances are you're not just trying to do okay at your internship. You're aiming higher. You want to leave with more than just experience. You want an offer. You want a place at the table. In this video, we're going to explore 3 powerful tactics to turn your internship into a full-time role, and these aren't just show up on time and smile a lot tips. These are strategies I've seen actually make the difference, ones that help you stand out, get remembered, and get hired. And we're going to walk through them together, one by one, in a way that's simple, real, and actually doable. Let's start with something that sounds obvious, but is surprisingly rare, owning your internship like it's already your job. You'd be amazed how many interns treat their internship like a school project. They wait to be told what to do. They complete the task, check the box, and move on. And sure, they might get a good job here and there, but they're not the ones who get the offer at the end. Why? Because they don't make themselves essential. See, when a company is deciding who to hire, they're not just looking at who followed instructions. They're looking at who added value. Who showed up like a team member. Who thought like a full-time employee, not a temporary visitor. Let me tell you about a guy named Marcus. Marcus interned at a tech startup, doing basic data analysis. His manager didn't expect much, just clean up some spreadsheets, generate a few reports, and that's it. But Marcus did something different. He didn't just follow instructions. He noticed that one of the weekly reports they were using had inconsistent data. Instead of ignoring it, he asked questions. Dug deeper. He realized it was because different teams were using different definitions of active users. So he took the initiative to talk to the teams, suggested a more unified approach, and offered to build a dashboard that could fix the confusion. No one asked him to do that. It wasn't in his job description. But guess what? That dashboard ended up becoming something the company used every single week. And when it came time to choose who they'd extend an offer to, it wasn't even a question. That's what it means to act like an owner. You don't need to be the loudest in the room. You just need to be the one who quietly makes things better. The one who looks at a messy situation and says, "How can I help solve this?" The one who doesn't wait to be told. And here's the thing, you can do this no matter what your role is. Whether you're interning in marketing, finance, design, HR, or even customer support, there's always a way to go from doing the job to owning the job. Start with one thing. Ask yourself every day, what can I do today that will make my manager's job easier? It's simple, but powerful. Now let's talk about something else that makes a massive difference, building real relationships, not just connections. You've probably heard a million times that networking is important. And yes, it is. But here's the truth, most interns go about it the wrong way. They think networking means collecting LinkedIn connections or awkwardly chatting at the coffee machine. That's not what we're talking about. If you want to turn your internship into a job, you need to build real, human relationships with the people you work with. And that starts with being genuinely curious and showing that you care, not just about your work, but about the people around you. Start by asking questions. Not just about tasks, but about people's journeys. Hey, how did you get into this role? What's something you wish you knew when you started? When you show that kind of curiosity, people open up. And once they do, they remember you, not as the intern who emailed them once, but as someone who was thoughtful, engaged, and interested. Here's a little story for you. There was a girl named Layla interning at a media agency. She was smart, hardworking, but what set her apart wasn't just her skills. It was the fact that every Friday, she'd invite someone from another department to lunch. She didn't have an agenda. She just wanted to learn. Over 10 weeks, she ended up talking to over a dozen people, strategists, creatives, project managers. When the internship ended, 3 different teams asked if she'd be available for full-time roles. Not because she was the best at everything, but because she made people feel seen. That's the kind of reputation you want to build. And it starts with something small, taking a genuine interest in people. When you do that, you start to become part of the team in a deeper way. People advocate for people they know. People go the extra mile for people they like. So, now that we've talked about showing up like an owner and building real relationships, there's one more piece of the puzzle that ties it all together. It's the difference between fading into the background or being someone they don't want to let go of. And that is where we'll pick things up next. So you've been showing up like an owner. You're building real relationships. You're taking the work seriously, even when it's small. That's already more than most interns ever do. But if you really want to stand out, the kind of standout that leads to a job offer, then there's one more thing you need to focus on. And it's something most people completely overlook, making your work visible. Let's talk about this for a second. A lot of interns assume that if they just work hard, people will notice. That if they do a good job and keep their head down, someone will come along, pat them on the back, and say, "You're hired." But the truth is, that rarely happens. Not because you're not good. Not because your work doesn't matter. But because, in most companies, people are busy. They've got their own deadlines, their own fires to put out, their own inboxes overflowing with messages. If you don't find a way to gently, respectfully shine a light on what you're contributing, your work might go unseen. Now, this doesn't mean bragging. It doesn't mean emailing your whole team every time you finish a task and saying, "Look what I did." It means learning how to communicate your impact in a way that's clear, humble, and helpful. Here's how you do it. Start by sending regular updates to your manager. Nothing fancy. Just a short weekly email that says, "Here's what I worked on this week, here's what I learned, and here's what I'm planning for next week." That alone shows initiative, organization, and professionalism. And it gives your manager a chance to see your progress without having to dig for it. Better yet, if something you worked on contributed to a project or helped someone else, make sure that gets mentioned. Again, not in a look-at-me way, but in a way that ties your work to the bigger picture. For example, this week I updated the client database, which helped the sales team prep faster for their meeting with XYZ. That one sentence says so much more than "I updated the database." It shows you understand why your work matters. And that's the kind of thinking that turns heads. Let me tell you about an intern named Josh. He worked at a nonprofit where he was tasked with updating grant records, basically, lots of spreadsheet work. Not glamorous. But every Friday, he sent a 3-sentence summary to his supervisor. One week, he mentioned that while going through the records, he noticed 3 foundations whose deadlines were coming up soon, and none of them were on the team's radar yet. Because of that heads up, the organization ended up submitting on time and won 2 of the grants. When his internship ended, they made room in the budget to hire him. Not just because of the grants, but because they knew, clearly and consistently, that he was someone who paid attention, added value, and didn't wait to be noticed. So if you're doing something cool, or useful, or even just consistent, find a way to let the right people know. Think of it like this: you're not just doing the work. You're also your own project manager. And part of that job is making sure people understand how your work connects to the team's goals. And while we're talking about visibility, here's another angle that's just as important: ask for feedback, often. Not just at the end of your internship. Not just when something goes wrong. But all the way through. Why? Because it shows you're coachable. And coachability is a major green flag. Here's the truth, nobody expects you to be perfect. You're an intern. You're supposed to be learning. But when you actively seek feedback, when you go to your manager and say, "Is there anything I could be doing better?" you show maturity, self-awareness, and a willingness to grow. Those qualities matter just as much, if not more, than raw talent. And here's the kicker, asking for feedback also creates more opportunities for growth. Because when your manager knows you're open to it, they're more likely to include you in more meaningful projects. They're more likely to trust you with bigger responsibilities. It becomes a cycle: learn, improve, grow, repeat. Let me give you a quick example. There was a marketing intern named Priya. About halfway through her internship, she asked her manager for 15 minutes just to check in. She said, "I want to make sure I'm meeting expectations. Is there anything I should be doing differently?" Her manager was caught off guard, but in a good way. They had a thoughtful conversation, and it turned out Priya had been over-focusing on one area while missing a bigger opportunity in another. That small adjustment ended up letting her contribute to a major campaign. And guess who got the full-time offer when the internship ended? It wasn't the intern who kept their head down. It was the one who kept learning. So if you've been quietly doing your work and hoping someone notices, consider this your nudge. Find a way to let your work speak up a little. Make it easy for people to see what you're bringing to the table. And when you're not sure if you're on the right track, ask. That question alone might lead you to the very opportunity you've been hoping for. Now, we've talked a lot about what happens during the internship, how you show up, how you communicate, how you grow. But there's one more piece that often gets overlooked, and it's what happens at the end. It's what you do in those final weeks that can tip the scales from great intern to future hire. And that's exactly where we're headed next. So you've been doing the work. You're taking initiative. You're making sure people see the value you bring, and you're building relationships that go beyond just hallway hellos. You're asking for feedback and showing you care about growing, not just getting by. That already puts you ahead of the curve. But now, the internship is winding down. Maybe there are only a couple of weeks left, or maybe just a few days. And you're wondering, did I do enough? Do they see me as someone who belongs here? Should I say something, or just wait and hope? Here's the truth. This final stage? It's your chance to tie everything together. To make it unmistakably clear that you don't just want to leave behind a good impression, you want to stay. And the key to that? Ask for the job. Ask for the chance. I know. That sounds bold. And maybe a little scary. But it doesn't have to be. You're not begging. You're not demanding. You're simply expressing interest and letting them know that you see a future here and that you'd love to be considered if a position opens up. It could sound as simple as this: "I've really enjoyed working with the team and being part of these projects. If there's ever an opportunity to stay on full-time, I'd love to be considered." That one sentence can plant a seed. It shows courage, clarity, and confidence. And sometimes, that's all a manager needs to hear to start the wheels turning. Think about it from their perspective. They've seen you grow. They've seen how you show up. But maybe they don't know if you're interested. Maybe they assume you're moving on to another internship or going back to school. If you don't say something, they might not either. But when you do, you open a door. Even if there's no role open right now, they'll remember that you asked. And that can lead to a call weeks later, or even months later, when a position opens up. Let me tell you about Anthony. He interned at a small design firm. In his final week, he asked his supervisor for 10 minutes. He said, "I've learned so much from this internship, and I'd really love to continue working here if the team ever has a need. Please keep me in mind." A month after the internship ended, someone on the design team left. Guess who was the first person they called? It wasn't someone from a job board. It was the intern who had the courage to say he wanted to stay. So if you're nearing the end, take a deep breath and have that conversation. It doesn't have to be formal. It just has to be sincere. And even if there's no opportunity for full-time right away, don't walk out the door without leaving a lasting footprint. Wrap up your work thoughtfully. Offer to create handover documents. Send thank you messages to the people you worked with. And above all, stay in touch. That last part might sound small, but it's huge. So many interns disappear the moment the internship ends. But if you follow up, even just once a month with a quick "hope you're doing well" or sharing a small update, it keeps you on their radar. It shows consistency. And it's a reminder of the great work you did. Sometimes, the timing isn't right. Sometimes, the company simply doesn't have a spot open when your internship ends. But timing changes. Budgets shift. People leave. Projects expand. And when that happens, who do you think they'll reach out to first? The person who disappeared, or the person who stayed connected, even when there wasn't an immediate reward? This is where persistence, not pushiness, really shines. You're not chasing. You're building. You're keeping the bridge open. And that kind of long-game thinking is exactly what sets you apart. So let's take a step back for a second and look at everything we've walked through. From day one, you show up like someone who belongs. You don't wait for permission to take ownership, you find small ways to make things better. You build genuine relationships, not just surface-level connections. You make your work visible, not to show off, but to help your team see the value you bring. You ask for feedback, you grow, you adjust. And when the time is right, you ask for the chance to stay and leave behind the kind of impression that lingers. That's how you turn an internship into a full-time offer. Not by being perfect. Not by knowing everything. But by showing that you're someone worth keeping. If you're watching this right now and you're in the middle of an internship, or even getting ready to start one, I want you to know something: you've got more power than you think. You don't have to wait for someone to hand you the future you want. You can build it, one small action at a time. And if you're feeling unsure, or nervous, or like you don't fully belong yet, please know that you're not alone. Every professional you admire once sat exactly where you are. Every leader was once an intern, wondering the same things, hoping for the same chance. You've got this. Now, I'd love to hear from you. If you've had an internship, or you're about to start one, what's one thing you're planning to do differently after watching this video? Drop it in the comments. Let's support each other and share what's working. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to give this video a like. It really helps more people find content like this. And subscribe if you want more real-world advice, career tips, and honest guidance on navigating life after school. Whatever path you're on right now, I just want to say, I'm rooting for you. Truly. Because you're not just an intern. You're a future teammate. A future leader. A future difference maker. Wishing you all the best in whatever comes next. You've got what it takes, now go show them.